Our day is not over just yet.
Woohoo! USA! USA!
We have an action-packed hour for you 6 p.m. drivers.
Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Matt Skraby wraps up a full day of live and local sports talk.
And that is the whole problem with aliens. You just can't trust them. Occasionally you meet a nice one, but usually they turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for October 28th, 2025. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be here until 7 p.m. We have a few things to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking about the World Series, of course. We're also going to be talking about the managerial opening that the Padres currently have and a small piece of news that came down. I'm also going to go through some of the guys last year that are on the team next year. I went through four specific players: Nick Pivetta, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill, and Randy Vasquez. I want to talk about them, and like those guys had a season. Well, Randy Vasquez had a great season. Jackson Merrill ended up with a great season. Nick Pivetta, great season. You know, Jackson Merrill's season was up and down because of the injury, and you may say he did not have a great season. I beg to differ. And then Fernando Tatis Jr., I have a couple questions about him. Plus, we'll go over some of those contract predictions for free agency here in 2025, 2026. The small piece of news for the Padres today came from Kevin Acee. At least I saw it from Kevin Acee. But Albert Pujols has interviewed for a second time for the Padres managerial position. There were no other names mentioned in that, but we do know Brian Esposito has interviewed as well. A couple other guys have interviewed, but I think Albert Pujols on his second interview is a little bit telling for us. They seem to like him. His name makes news, and I would think that they are hiring the right person, which if they did hire Albert Pujols, I don't think it would be a ticket selling move. They don't have any sort of problem selling tickets right now, so it's not like a marketing gimmick or anything like that. They probably, if they select Albert Pujols as the manager, the organization thinks that he's going to be the guy that's going to lead them to a World Series and a World Series title. So I like I said, last week with the are we putting too many eggs in the Albert Pujols basket? I think at this point, we're kind of seeing that there's not many great candidates out there that are big names. I'm not saying that there's someone who hasn't been a manager who isn't, there's no one out there that could be a good manager. There's definitely guys out there that could be a good manager, but their name, and this goes along with me saying the marketing gimmick, their name doesn't inspire confidence amongst the fan base, which doesn't really have to, but I mean, can you imagine if they were like, hey, we have hired Ken Smith, who is the AAA coach for, I don't even know, Sugarland. Like, that wouldn't make anybody really that excited. And so do I think they need to hire fast or hire the right person? They have to hire the right person. There's no question for me there. They absolutely have to fire. They absolutely have to hire the right person and not just make a decision just so they get someone in place. We talked about a little bit earlier on Good and Chris, and Tony said that free agents will sign with a team that doesn't have a manager, if the contract is right. And the Padres have a very good situation right now. So you join a team like the Padres, you're going to join a team that's most likely going to be fighting for a playoff spot. So you know what you're going to get in that department. Now, it would be interesting to sign a free agent and then hire a manager and then have that free agent not like the manager, which I don't foresee any of this happening. But that would be kind of interesting if, the Padres were going business as usual without a manager. And then once they select that manager, then it's a problem. I don't think that would happen. I don't think that they would ever do something like that, but they have to find the right person. And it's not me saying wait out for Albert Pujols. If he gets through a couple more interviews and he loses out on the job, then I think the Padres were making the right decision. I just don't want to see them make a decision just to make a decision. That's what I do not want to see. And as an irrational human being that I have been in the past, I have learned that the best way to make decisions are to make them with time. If we have time, then I will take that time and I will think about it and I will go over all the pros and cons on each side, because Albert Pujols, bringing him in, you bring in a big name, but you bring in a big question mark too, because you don't really know how he's going to manage. So that was the news from the Padres today, and they brought him in for a second interview. So we'll see if there's any more news the rest of the week about that. But currently, the Padres, I was talking to someone over the weekend. It seems like the Padres have been done forever. I don't know how everybody else feels out there, but it feels like we have not had Padres baseball in like 6 months. And I know that's not true because they had baseball at the beginning of the year, but I can't imagine us doing radio right now knowing that the Padres are still playing. So hopefully one day we get to do that, but to have baseball being aired on our station on October 28th would be pretty crazy, because it hasn't happened here at this station. And I just hope that they can, the Padres can take advantage of this window, because I said it yesterday. I've said it a couple times. The window is still open, but the window is going to close a little bit more each year that they don't win the World Series. So they win a World Series, that window, it doesn't matter if it closes. I've been told that no one's going to be mad about the future, the immediate future, but these are the critical years for the Padres. These are the critical years for them to make something happen, because they've put together a pretty good core, as we all know, but that core has not been able to take them further than the NLCS in 2022. Was it 2022? 2020? Yeah, 2022. But I just think that they really need to let me start that over. They really need to make sure that they do not waste this period of time in franchise history. I really don't. Juan says no veteran coach is going to want to come here after what has happened in the last 6 years. I beg to differ. I think there are a lot of coaches that would want this team. You got free agency, you got Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr. You have so many guys on this team. Jackson Merrill. All of a sudden, I've forgotten who's on this team. You could bring back guys like Ryan O'Hearn. I do think that a veteran manager would want to be a part of this team. Now, would they be a little nervous about joining the fray and being fired in 2 years, or being, retired in 2 years? Maybe. I could certainly buy that someone in the back of their mind has a little bit of a question as to whether or not they're going to have a job years from now. But I do think that there is a veteran manager that would want to come here. I don't know that there is one that the Padres would want to bring in right now. So KG says, if we keep AJ around, Skraby, I don't think we necessarily have the same limitations. He's so creative with trades that they keep things going constantly. We were told our window was going to close after 23. Then we made the playoffs back to back. I don't disagree with that, KG. They do keep this team fresh, but there are a certain number of players that this team is built around. And once those players, unless you can keep the factory going and keep switching out players and getting superstar players, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., those are the guys. I mean, Xander Bogaerts too, but Xander Bogaerts is a little bit older, and we all know about the contract situation for Xander Bogaerts. So I think that the window, when people said it was going to close in 2023, underestimated AJ Preller, but B, they weren't giving the Padres enough credit because they've been able to come up with something that not many teams have been able to come up with in the last 5 years at least. I mean, AJ Preller, last year we knew he wasn't able to spend money because there was stuff going on with the organization, and he made it work. He made it work. So when this decision is made, I'm hoping that everybody's happy so we can all just move forward into a Padres season that is going to be exciting. Although the World Baseball Classic this year is going to throw a little bit of a wrench into spring training, but we'll see. We'll talk about that as it comes. But World Series Game 4 right now. I mean, this season hasn't even ended yet, and I'm already talking about next year, which is the benefit of being someone who works on a radio station whose team was jettisoned from the playoffs early on. It's still 2-1 Blue Jays right now, top of the 4th inning, 1 out. Ohtani's still on the mound for the Dodgers. He has 49 pitches. Dalton Varsho is up. And if you missed it, Vlad Jr., the Dodgers got on the board first to make it 1-0. Then Vlad Jr. hit a 2-run home run in the I think, in the top of the 3rd, and they took the lead 2-1. So after that 18-inning game last night, that was crazy. And I don't know about everybody else, but I guess you can't call me a sports diehard because I stayed up until like the bottom of the 15th last night. But then I decided that if the Blue Jays did not get it done in the top of the 16th, then I was just going to see what happened in the morning. And then in the middle of the commercial break, I decided I'm just going to see what happened in the morning. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't stay up and watch Freddie Freeman hit a walk-off home run. Like, I think 18-inning World Series games are pretty fun and obviously unique, but I don't really need 18 innings. I might be the guy who's in the minority here, but yes, there was great baseball being played last night. But at a certain point, I was like, can we just get a winner? And I know that I'm not, I'm definitely not in the majority with that thought. But when I woke up this morning, saw that it was Freddie Freeman who hit the walk-off home run. When Will Smith hit that long fly ball to left center and he thought it was out, I almost turned off the TV there and it wasn't out. That was extremely satisfying. I have to admit that. That was extremely satisfying to see Will Smith think he walked off another game with a home run and then end up dying at the wall. That was good stuff. Very, very good stuff. All right, you can watch the show if you want to. Just go to Skraby Show on YouTube. It's youtube.com/@the Show. SKRAB as in boy Y. You could also watch on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube, 97.3 Twitch, my ex @Matt Skraby, MATTSKRAB as in boy Y. We're going to go to break. When I get back, we're going to talk about my big questions for 4 Padres players in 2026. So these are what I came up with today. I'm going to do this a little bit going forward, but today my 4 players are Nick Pivetta, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill, and Randy Vasquez. We'll talk about it when we get back here on the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan. I've taken a turn on one thing that's done during a sports broadcast. And I think it's the in-game interviews with the managers. I don't need them. I was watching one, I can't remember which manager it was. I think it was Dave Roberts, but I thought they always recorded those in between innings because that makes a lot of sense so that the manager can, do his job during the game. But Dave Roberts was doing this interview live, and he was like, oh, yeah, I really like the swing that Freddie just had right there. Like, I think it's kind of crazy that they're talking to these guys during the game. And yes, there's people out there, oh, well, he's not doing anything anyway. Maybe in that moment he's not doing anything. But what if like some crazy call happened and he needed to rush out of the dugout and he wasn't watching it? And this is not a Dave Roberts apologist thing. This is just the interviews that I've seen this postseason just have been awkward. And maybe that some of the interviewees are making it awkward on purpose, that people don't want to do them anymore. But man, I don't like them. I think they're done. I also don't understand, and no offense to Tom Verducci and Ken Rosenthal, I don't really understand what their jobs are. I know that their job is to be like a sideline reporter and they break in with certain little news and notes, but I don't really know what they're doing half the time. I mean, it's not really my problem. I'm not the one paying them or anything like that, but man, I sometimes when those guys come on, I'm like, I don't even want to watch this right now. What are they going to say? Last night, Tom Verducci did have something actually very interesting later in the game, which was they were trying to find more baseballs because they only had 200 and something ready for the game, and obviously going 18 innings and basically getting a new baseball every single time you throw a pitch. They were running out of baseballs, but there you go. I thought that was a good little point from Tom Verducci. David says Ken's job is to bash our Padres as much as he can. You know what? I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with it at all. Oh, I thought Kike Hernandez just hit a home run, but he did not. End of the fourth inning, Shane Bieber gets out of it. Blue Jays are up 2-1 going into the top of the fifth. All right, my big questions for 2026 with the Padres. And I picked out 4 players that I wanted to talk about tonight. So we're going to start with possibly the biggest surprise and maybe even the glue that held everything together this year in a certain way, and that would be Nick Pivetta. Can he be the same guy we saw this year? Because this year's Nick Pivetta, very, very good. He made 31 starts this year. He pitched the most innings of his career this year. He has the most Ks of his career this year. He had the most wins of his career this year. He went 13-5. He had a 2.87 ERA. He struck out 190 batters, and he has a whip of 0.99 walks and hits per innings pitched, which usually a whip of under 1 is very, very good. I don't understand why he didn't get more conversation in the I don't understand why he's not in more of a conversation for some of the pitcher awards that they have. I don't know that he's going to win, but he had a really solid season. And if you look at his importance to the Padres, he acted as their stopper, and that was huge because how many times did the Padres go into some sort of tailspin and then Nick Pivetta pitched and it ended up turning things around for a little bit. So I think that Nick Pivetta is going to be extremely motivated after watching him pitch this year, kind of sort of getting to know him throughout the year, not personally, but through, interviews and stuff like that. I fully expect for him to be the same guy. I can't expect for him to get better. I don't know that he's going to be setting career highs again, but if you give me a 13-5, 2.9, 190K season with a whip of 0.99 next year, I am signing up for that right now, no questions asked. I will take that in a heartbeat. Because when you look at some of his other years, they're much different. So when they signed him and I was looking at his stats, I'm like, yeah, this guy is like a career 4 ERA. He's just kind of a, whatever guy. He wasn't a whatever guy. He was incredible for the Padres this year. Juan says Pivetta MVP of the team. Co-MVP, Razor Ramon. Guy saved our season. He did. So Nick Pivetta, if he can be the same guy that we saw this year, next year, Padres are in a really good spot in that regard. Now we move over to Fernando Tatis Jr. And the biggest question for me, for Fernando, from 2025 to 2026, can Fernando keep up the walk numbers while at the same time hitting for power? Because it seemed like at points in the season, it was either Fernando had a good eye, he would get on base, he stole more bases than ever, but then it came at the expense of the power. So can Fernando do both next year? And I think it's fair to want for him to be able to take a step up in the power department this in 2026, because it's not like he didn't have good power, but we saw him struggle quite a bit, and then his hits and his home runs came in bunches almost. So can he do that? He had the most walks of his career this year. He also had the second lowest OPS of his career. So maybe I hate to tell a guy to not swing at certain pitches, because I'm not a Major League Baseball player, but he needs to find a little bit more power, because they're counting on him for that. And they are counting on him to hit home runs, and they are counting on him to hit doubles. So Fernando just needs basically his defense was great last year. I mean, for the most part, everything was great, except for the stretches where he couldn't hit, which goes for every player, but also the fact that he was walking and it was coming at the expense of what he's really good at, which is power. So that's Fernando for my big questions for 2026. Jackson Merrill, can he put together some semblance of his rookie year? Now, he did improve in a couple things this year over his rookie year, and he was injured, like separate injuries, and he was on the IL a couple separate times. He was on the IL a couple times. So I know that his season was kind of stop and start, but he did improve in things last year, even though he played 41 fewer games than his rookie season, and he had 114 less at bats. We saw more walks from Jackson Merrill in 2025. He had the same amount of triples with 6. And if you just kind of look at his numbers versus last year, you might say, okay, he had a down season. He had a bad season. I don't think you could call it a bad season. I think he had a good season. Although it didn't come when the Padres needed it, I'll say that. He only had 8 fewer home runs in the 114 less at bats. He only had 6 fewer doubles. The 8 home runs and the 6 fewer doubles could go where his OPS went from 826 his rookie year to 774. He also struck out more this year than he did in his rookie year. But here's where I'm most excited about Jackson Merrill, because he started to find it at the end of the year. His September and October were huge. 24 games for him in September and October. He hit 7 home runs, 275 batting average, and a 946 OPS. To me, I was told a long time ago by a former professional athlete, you always look for the guys at the end of the season. Are they trending up at the end of the year? At the end of the year that someone struggled? Are they getting better? Because if they are getting better throughout the year, that means that they're sticking with it. And if they are getting better in the final part of the season, that means that they're starting to find it again. And so I know that 2 seasons don't actually coincide, but the way that he played at the end of the season makes me think that we're going to get the rookie. I almost called him rookie of the year. He is our rookie of the year. We're going to get that sort of Jackson Merrill. I really do think that. Last one. Can Randy Vasquez, my guy, traffic cop, can Randy Vasquez take another step forward? Now, when you think about Randy Vasquez, his name doesn't really jump out at you, but he was really important for the Padres this year, and I think that he's going to be even more important for the Padres next year. And when you look at what he did as a starting pitcher for the team, he had the second best WAR of starters outside of Nick Pivetta on the team. That tells you how good he was. He is higher than Cease, obviously higher than King. He is higher than Yu Darvish. So the only guy who was a starter, who has a higher WAR for 2025 would be Nick Pivetta. That tells me that Randy Vasquez did a really good job for the Padres in 2025. He pitched more innings than he ever has. He made more starts than he ever had. His ERA lowest in his career, his WHIP lowest of his career. His strikeouts were up. So I think what Rod said on the chat is extremely true. Randy Vasquez helped our season more than what he gets credit for. I'm fully behind that. I feel like Randy Vasquez, for some reason, the Padres never really trusted him. I don't know that to be true, but it just seemed like other pitchers could get away with certain situations, but then when Randy Vasquez faced a certain situation, he was always pulled from the game, and I didn't like it. I did not like it, but that's what they did with him last year, and I'm hoping that they won't do that with him again this year. And maybe it was one of those things where they're trying to save his arm a little bit because they knew that he wasn't going to be a workhorse this year, but I do think they're going to lean on him a lot more next year. And a step forward for Randy Vasquez would be much appreciated for the Padres, because you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with Dylan Cease, likely to be a free agent and leaving. Michael King, I have no idea what's going to go on with that. I have no idea what's going to happen with Michael King. I personally think he comes back to the Padres, but can't make a guarantee on that. It's the starting rotation. You get Joe Musgrove back, so that's good. But the starting rotation has some question marks that we're going to need to address here in the offseason for us to feel a little bit better going into the 2026 season. All right. Matt Skraby, Skraby Show, 97.3 The Fan. These hours are getting faster and faster and faster. I have a daily gripe. I also want to go through some of those contracts, free agent predictions from Jim Bowden of The Athletic when we get back here on 97.3 The Fan.
Quinn and Chris on the Fan.
All guests on the 97.3 The Fan join us on the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. Excuse me. That's what happens when you start talking and you know your throat's going to give out and you don't have anybody else in the room. Let me start that over. All guests on 97.3 The Fan join us on the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. David P. Shapiro, criminal defense attorneys, helping good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. I gotta say, I've been pretty lucky with my voice over the years. I haven't talked too much, I guess, yet, because my voice is, pretty good for the most part. I don't usually lose my voice, but I feel like something's going on because the last couple days I've had a sore throat, and it's not because I'm sick. I don't know what's happening, but something's going on with the old throat there. We'll figure it out. There's a story that I really want to get into, and I don't think I should because it's a very serious story. And when I say serious, I mean people are very invested in that story. And I deal with this in a different way, but there is major controversy going on in San Diego over the limits on the Surf Cup Park use. So where the polo fields is what they used to call them off of Via de la Valle, it's now just a big youth soccer tournament area. And the traffic is brutal when they have tournaments. During the summer, it is so hard to get around there. And the reason that I go that way, because I live in Encinitas is because if I go the back way, then I get to skip all the traffic that's on the 5 North. I get to like go around everything. I'd much rather, even if it takes 5 minutes longer, I'd rather be moving and driving than be stuck in traffic on the freeway. So that's why I get out or get off the freeway at Villa del Valle if the traffic's really terrible, and then I go the back way. But I've been caught in this Surf Cup traffic before, and it's bad. It's only a 2-lane road down there. So, and there's thousands of people that show up to this place. I don't know why or how the San Diego City Council relaxed the limits on it. I'm going to have to do a little bit of research on this because I want to make sure I'm a little bit more educated if I do talk about it. But really, the first thing that comes to mind when I read this article in the Union Tribune was, man, that's a really, really terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. The roads are a mess. They have potholes everywhere. People are dropping off their kids in the middle of the street. You got kids running around. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. I said I wasn't going to talk about it, and then I ended up talking about it. But not. I didn't get into the nitty gritty, and I'm not saying who's in the right and who's in the wrong, but I think you guys know which way I'm leaning here, because I do not like being stuck behind 100 cars that are trying to park in a parking lot that probably only has about 75 spots. Okay. Free agents. I'll get back to my complaining in the Daily Gripe in a little bit. Free agents. And Jim Bowden in The Athletic put this together. And so I'm just going to bring you where the Padres are mentioned. But the first mention for the Padres in this top 50 is Ranger Suarez. Phillies. Currently, last team was the Phillies. So he is now a free agent. They're saying that his salary comps, Tyler Glasnow, 5 years, 136. Robbie Ray, 5 years, 115. UC Kikuchi, 3 years, 63. Carlos Rodon, 6 years, 162. But the prediction for the contract here is 6 years, $164 million for Ranger Suarez. He's 30, had a really, really good year. His agent, Scott Boras. So let's just assume that he's probably going to make $200 million. The very next player on the list is Dylan Cease. And this was one I went and looked for when I saw the title of the article. But Dylan Cease is a free agent. They're saying that his salary comps are going to be Garrett Crochet-like. 6 years, $170 million. Blake Snell, 5 years, $182. Carlos Rodon. They're thinking, Jim Bowden's thinking, that he gets 6 years, $187 million. Guess who his agent is? Scott Boras. So he's probably going to get 200. So these, I don't think that every single player is being priced out for the Padres, but it's going to be really, really hard to bring back Dylan Cease at 6 years, $190 million. But I will say this. I think we're going to miss Dylan Cease if he does not return to the Padres. I know that he was frustrating to watch at times this year. I know that he was billed as like an ace, but he made every single start. He went deep into games, and he struck out a ton of guys. He struck out 215 batters this year. I think the Padres, and I don't know that we gave him enough support while he was here, because I think we're going to miss that sort of automatic in the rotation. I really do. So hopefully he returns to the Padres and pitches better, but I don't want to see him go. Here are the best team fits: Padres, Braves, Mets, Orioles, Cubs, Giants, Angels, Red Sox, Tigers. I don't want to see him go anywhere in the NL West. Anywhere at all in the NL West. Sorry, my voice is really going now. We got 10 minutes left, so I'm going to make it there. I'm going to make it there. Some of there's a couple players from the Japanese Baseball League. Tatsuya Imai, he is someone who's going to command a lot of money. I'm not really sure about him just yet. Cody Bellinger was mentioned as maybe possibly a guy who could come to the Padres, although he is 6 years, 168 projected. Zach Gallen, He is they're looking like Zach Gallen because he's 30. Another Boris guy, by the way. Zach Gallen, they're thinking that he's going to be taking one of those shorter deals for lots of money instead of the longer deal with maybe less money. So like the 2 years and $46 million that Seth Lugo signed for. But Zach Gallen could get the short one, or he could get 5 years, $135 million, according to Jim Bowden. But it's really fun, though, when you look through this, because it's almost like the Padres are in every single deal here. Their name is mentioned as someone who could swoop in and get them. There's also a big bat from the Nippon Professional Baseball League, Munetaka Murakami. He's a first baseman, third baseman. He's 25. He's a lefty, but he could probably, they're saying, hit 30 home runs a year. And they're saying he can get 6 years, $160 million. Now, Michael King is the next one. And we know what happened with Michael King. He was, on the fast track to being the number one free agent on the market, struggled with injury all year long, and had that pinch nerve, which took him out basically the entire year. So this year has kind of been a wash for Michael King, but the prediction is 3 years and $75 million. And I know this isn't my money, but if you're not going to pay Dylan Cease, pay Michael King that 3 years and $75 million. They have a mutual option, so both of them have to accept the option, the Padres and Michael King. I don't think Michael King's going to do that, but 3 years, 75 mil. I know I sound like I'm just saying it's nothing, but it's definitely something. But for Michael King, who probably expected to get some long 6 year, 7 year deal, you might have to go with a shorter deal worth a little bit more money. But he's kind of a question mark because of what happened last year. Robert Suarez, he's going to opt out most likely. They're thinking he gets 4 years, $80 million. So, I mean, Mason Miller is going to be the closer of the future there. Now, here's one that I thought was very interesting. And then we're going to be done with this list for tonight. Here's what I thought would be very interesting. They have JT Realmuto, who is a free agent. He is he was on the Phillies the last 4 or 5 years. He is not the player that he once was, but I do think after seeing the catcher position this year struggle as it did, and then Freddie Fermin came in. Freddie Fermin, I think, did a really good job, but I don't think that he was ready for an everyday catcher role. So you bring in Realmuto at 34 years old for a couple years. You have a mentor, Freddie Fermin, and Realmuto doesn't have to catch every single day because you have a quality catcher that can back up and make some starts. But that one is interesting to me because he was linked to the Padres in his first free agency years ago. But now he's linked to the Padres again, and they're thinking he makes around $17 million a year, which I think is a lot for a 34-year-old catcher. But I don't think you can get away from the fact that he has been one of the best catchers in baseball for a while now. And he would be great for this team. So Realmuto was interesting when I saw him on the list of teams that possibly could go after him. And there was only 2 teams on the list. Ryan Ahern's in here too, but we'll figure all that out at another time. My Halloween movie. I'm coming to the end of the show. And then I got a gripe as well. World Series right now, 2-1. Blue Jays still leading. I think in the 6th inning, they went to one of those commercials inside of the game, so I can't really see the score bug right now, but I will in just a second. But bottom of the 6th, 2-1 Blue Jays. My Halloween movie. I'm taking the easy way out. It's my new favorite scary movie, and it's the Terrifier series. If you've never seen Terrifier, you have to. It's very bloody, but Art the Clown is he's like a mime clown, and he's kind of funny. But there's 3 movies. I think the 4th one is coming out at some point, but the first 2 are very good. First one is kind of like they went for a short movie and then realized they could do a longer movie or got more money and they did a longer movie, but it's still fun. The second one is more of a movie, and then the third one's definitely a movie. So you got like the Hollywood look and feel to it. But Terrifier, love him. Love everything about Art the Clown, except for, all the bad things that he does. But he's hilarious, and I could watch him be a mime clown all day.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
It's a good thing we're coming to the end because I don't know that I'm going to have a voice after this show. My Daily Gripe today is something that happens in my neighborhood, and people have taken things too far. So we have this trail that's near my house that everybody uses, and it's never had these signs before. So the other day I walked down towards the trail and I see that there's this big sign that's been cemented into the grass of the little park area. And the sign, it said, something preserve, keep on the trail only. And then it had like a police citation number on the bottom. So I thought, oh, this is the city putting these together. 2 days later, I come back to that same area and I notice the sign is gone. And I also notice a note from someone who realizes that some random person in the neighborhood decided to put these signs up and put them in the ground. They put 2 signs up, and then and then people who are against the no trespassing sign put this little piece of paper on it. Enjoy the trail bridges and sitting areas we built. Ignore the trail dorks who take the fun out of everything. Who are these freaks anyway? Turns out, asked around the neighborhood, these people just decided that it was upon them to go and buy signs and put these signs in. They have nothing to do with the city. They have nothing to do with the HOA. They have nothing to do with anything other than the fact that they felt like people were using the public trail wrong. So my daily gripe is this. If it's not yours, don't restrict it. My neighborhood is getting a little too crazy with this whole thing. It's getting a little too crazy. Like, I don't understand why my neighborhood is turning into this place where I can't walk my dogs without worrying that someone's going to yell at me, or if someone's going to get mad at my dogs, even though my dogs are on the leash now all the time because of, things that have happened in the past. But man, I was not a fan. I was not a fan after I learned that these signs were basically put up by just people who think that they own the trail when it's a public trail. And I can't condone this, but one of the 2 cemented in signs that were put in, one of them was removed. Someone legitimately came and removed the sign. So that shows you how those people felt about that. The neighborhood stories, man, crazy. But that's my gripe, because it's really annoying when people are telling you what to do when they really don't have any authority to tell you what to do. All right, that's it for the Skraby Show. Thank you to everybody who joined me tonight. I'll be back tomorrow with more Gwen and Chris, more Skraby Show. Blue Jays still up 2-1. Have a great night, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow.